I know exactly how it feels to be skinny fat. Back in the day, I was a skinny fat guy, and I'll show you some photos up on your screen. And I figured out a couple of key things that I was doing wrong, both in the gym and in the kitchen. And I turned it around, I managed to get super shredded, and then I went on to compete in a number of bodybuilding competitions. So this video is for everybody, guys and gals that are skinny fat, that are making all the same mistakes that I once made, and you want to figure out how to correct those mistakes and get into the best shape of your life. Stick around, I'm going to talk about it in this video coming up. All right, my friends, welcome back. Brad here again, bradnewtonfitness.com. It's my website and my brand new YouTube channel. So welcome back for the one subscriber that we have on this channel so far. This is my third YouTube channel, so you've got to start somewhere. 12th of October 2021, episode 5, filming from lockdown city, Melbourne, the most lockdown city in the world. That is a fact. Now I'm going to jump straight into it, and I'm going to keep this as short as possible. Skinny fat, what is it? You probably know what it is. If you're watching this video, you probably are a skinny fat, which is okay. It's how I started. I'll show you the photos of what I looked like as a skinny fat back in the day. Essentially, skinny arms, skinny chest, and a little bit of a gut, right? Maybe some love handles as well. That's what skinny fat is. Skinny fat is essentially somebody that has not much muscle on the frame and quite a bit of fat in all the wrong places. So that's essentially what skinny fat is. So what causes skinny fat? Before I get into the solution, I'll talk about what causes it. And so I'll talk about the mistakes that I made, because they're probably the same mistakes that you're making in the gym and outside of the gym as well. I've got them listed here. Now, I've made all of these mistakes at some point years ago, which was why I was a skinny fat back in the day. The first one is very little strength training. Now, when I first started my training journey, I was intimidated and scared of, and this is truth, of doing deadlifting because I thought I'd break my back. I was scared of bench press because I thought that I'd drop the bar on my chest and I would die. That's the truth. I was scared of doing overhead press because I thought I'd drop the bar on my head. So the truth is I stayed away from all of the heavy compound lifts because they looked very intimidating to me as somebody that was just starting my fitness journey. And so I stuck with cable machines predominantly. And even so, with cable machine workouts, because they were pretty safe, I didn't track those workouts. I didn't know how to track my training. I didn't know anything about progressive overload. So I'm throwing some terms at you, you probably never heard of them, which is fine, that's okay. But essentially, I didn't do any compound movements, which I'll talk about in the solution in the next part of this video. I wasn't training correctly, that's the truth. So I was doing predominantly cable machine workouts. I wasn't doing proper training, which kind of accentuated the skinny fat problem that I had. And the second one here is no protein. So this was a big one. Now, I was getting a little bit of protein in my diet, but I certainly wasn't getting the amount of protein that I needed for the training that I was doing at that time. Now, you need on average around 0.8 to 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight per day. I said that really fast. I'll throw it up on the screen. I'll also mention it again later on in the video. But I was probably getting around, I think I was getting like 70 or 80 grams of protein a day back in those days, which was not enough protein if you're training in the gym. Even if you're doing the wrong training, you need to get more protein. So that is one of the reasons why I wasn't building any muscle, which led to being skinny fat, was because I wasn't getting enough protein. So we'll come back to that. The third one, severe calorie restriction. Now, a lot of people do this, particularly women, right? I did this as well. I starved myself at times. I didn't eat enough calories. I thought if I just, ate 1,500 calories a day or 12, I wasn't even tracking my calorie intake, to be honest with you, but I just knew if I severely restricted my intake of food, then it would be the quickest way of losing fat. So that was another reason why I was a skinny fat guy. Severe calorie restriction. A lot of you guys could probably relate to that. Starving yourself, yo-yo dieting, that kind of stuff. I've been there, I've done this, I've made that mistake. The next one is too much cardio. Now I've done this, hours on the treadmill, 5-6 days a week, thinking that the more cardio I was doing, the more fat I would lose. Combining all of these together led to losing a whole lot of muscle, keeping the fat on my frame, which then accentuated this problem of being a skinny fat. I made all of these mistakes. Which ones are you making? Now it's okay, you're probably making several of these, which is fine. You need to know what mistakes you're making so that then you can correct them. So once you know that, we get to the solution. Now, how I turned my body around from being skinny fat to being shredded, it took time, that's number one. I would suggest doing this for at least 6 to 8 weeks. 6 to 8 weeks, and you'll start seeing considerable improvements with your physique, but you have to trust the process. One thing my coach always taught me when I was competing, trust the process. 6 to 8 weeks. The solution, the first thing I had to do was I had to fix my training. That was the first thing. Down here, weightlifting. 4 times a week, that's what I did. Between 3 to 5 times a week, I got onto a structured weightlifting program. If you don't know what that is or what the best one is, I actually wrote an article, I'll link it below, called Push Pull Legs. I talk about the kind of weightlifting I was doing in that article. I'll link it below, Push Pull Legs. And essentially Push Pull Legs is a very simple split, right? Organizing your training into push muscles, pull muscles, and legs. There's many different types of splits, but that's what I started with, and that saved me. This one saved me. Weightlifting. Now, this is what I did. I hired a personal trainer to help me through the most intimidating lifts, the deadlift. Now, the deadlift, as I mentioned before, I was super fearful of. I thought I was going to hurt my back. It turns out that I didn't hurt my back, provided someone shows you, or you start off with very light weight. Like for me, it was around 60 kilos. That's how I started off my deadlifting journey. 60 kilos, trying to figure out the correct form and the technique and all that kind of stuff. And then getting a personal trainer to just check my technique a couple of times. That gave me the confidence to then go away in my own time and start doing a lot more deadlifting. So the first one being deadlifting, the second one being bench press. So if you're a guy watching this, you know what I'm talking about. Get confident with the bench press. Start off with a light weight, get someone to spot you, get a personal trainer to show you. That's exactly what I did. That broke me through my fear of both the deadlift and the bench press. The third one is the squat, either front squats or back squats. Again, get someone to show you how to do it, do a bit of research on it, incorporate the squat for your legs, right? The fourth one is going to be your overhead press, and start off with light weight once again. And the next one is going to be, you can do pull-ups as well, incorporate pull-ups. So that's essentially, and I talk more about those core compound movements in the article down here, push-pull legs, right? But I'm just giving you a very quick summary. And then all of the other weight training exercises that you do kind of fall in around those core lifts. So that's how I did it. And I just did that for a good 6 to 8 weeks. And I started seeing remarkable improvements with my physique, right? Because to build muscle, you need to put your body under stress. You need to put your muscles under stress. On top of that, weightlifting, I did this 3 to 5 times a week using push-pull legs for deadlifting, bench press, all that kind of stuff that I mentioned. I also tracked my weightlifting journey. I never did this before. Now you can track using a notepad. It's completely up to you, right? You can get a notepad and you can just write down, how much weight, how many sets, how many reps that you did on a particular day. Or you can use an app on your phone, which is what I like to use. My thing is over there. I like to use FitNotes. FitNotes I've been using for years. So go and get FitNotes. And with FitNotes, you can start recording your weightlifting journey that way. There are many great apps, but that's the one that I still continue to use like 6 or 7 years later. I've been using that one forever. And that helps me keep track and ensuring that I'm lifting a little bit heavier weight week after week after week, because you must aim to get a little bit stronger on each of your lifts every week. It's okay if you have a bad week, but over time, you want to train a little bit heavier, a little bit stronger on those main lifts. So that's the first big thing that helped me reverse skinny fat. The second one is nutrition. I call it meal planning, right? So we'll call it nutrition, same thing. Now, it's important that you track your nutritional intake. You don't have to be a ninja with the calculations around calories and macros or macronutrients. And I'll talk more about this kind of stuff I'll link some articles below on my website, go and check them out, because there's obviously a lot more to this than what I have time to explain. But when I got myself onto a meal plan for both cutting and bulking, a structured meal plan that incorporated enough protein, enough fat, enough carb, according to my goals, then I started to see my body change as well. So you can do all the training that you want in the gym, but if you're not getting enough calories, or your calories are not set according to your goals, or your macronutrients are not set according to your goals, then you're not going to get the body that you want. It's super important that these two work together, right? You can do all the nutrition you want. You can eat clean, you can eat amazing food, you can get all the protein you want, but if you don't lift, then your body's not going to change. As mentioned, if you lift, but you don't take care of your nutrition, and you eat garbage all day, then your body's not going to change. So these two go hand in hand, 100% each. Meal plans. So you can either cut or bulk. So a lot of people ask me through my website, Brad, should I cut or should I bulk first? I always tell people my story, and then I look at your physique when the photos come through on my website, and then I give people better advice based on individual circumstances. But for me, I started off with a cut first. I started off with a cut, and I cut down to around 10 or 12% body fat from memory. And then when I got to around 10 to 12% body fat, I then went to a bulk. I bulked up to around 20%, and I use meal plans for this. So I use a cutting meal plan to cut down to about 10 to 12% body fat. And then when I got to that, I then bulked to around 20%. And then after I bulked to 20%, and while I was bulking, by the way, I was also doing strength training, deadlifting, bench press, overhead press, all those lifts I mentioned before. I was still training the same way during a bulk, but my lifts were much better. Because when you're in a calorie surplus, when you're bulking, your lifting performance increases versus being in a cut. And then when I got to about 20%, then I cut again for the second time. And then when you cut, you're actually removing all the fat, not all the fat, but as much fat as you can, while preserving as much muscle as possible, right, during your second cut. Which one should you do? Should you cut or should you bulk? Now, if you have a lot of fat on your frame, right, if you're a guy watching this and you're around 20% body fat, then you need to cut. I would say you would need to cut first. If you're around 10 to 12% body fat as a skinny fat, then I would say bulk. So it depends on your frame, what you're currently sitting at. But it's usually easier to cut first in my experience, because when you're just starting this journey of doing what they call a body recomposition, where you're changing your body composition, you're increasing your muscle and you're reducing your fat, right? So body recomposition, and you're just starting this journey for the first time. When you start off with a cut, you're actually you're getting positive reinforcement in the mirror, which actually helps build your confidence in that this process actually works. Whereas if you're a beginner just starting out and you jump straight into a bulk and you get heavier, it doesn't look so good in the mirror. It doesn't give you that positive feedback loop that as a beginner you really do need. And you need that positive feedback loop to give you confidence that what you're doing is working. And when you're bulking off the bat, and you can't see all your muscle definition, because when you're bulking, you're putting on a bunch of fat, you're also building muscle, providing your weight training. You can't see any of your striations, you can't see any of that muscle you're building because the fat's covering it. So you don't get the same feedback loop in the mirror. That's why I like cutting first, then bulking, then cutting, as a general rule of thumb. And the last one I want to mention is cardio. Now, the cardio that you set depends on the goals that you're trying to achieve. Now, when you're cutting, I like to increase my cardio, but again, I'm not doing too much cardio. What does that mean, too much cardio? Well, I was doing 1.5 hours of cardio a day, 5 days a week. Too much. Too much because I was not getting enough protein, and I was also severely restricting my calories, which led to this problem in the first place. So I dialed back my cardio. For a cut, I was getting around 3 days, I was doing around 3 days of cardio a week at around 20 to 30 minutes a session. That is it. Low to moderate intensity, up to 3 days per week of cardio during a cut. And if I was doing high intensity interval training, like if I'm doing Muay Thai kickboxing, for example, then I might do 2 high intensity interval training sessions a week of around 20 minutes of Muay Thai kickboxing, because HIIT training has its own benefits, right? Over and above normal low intensity cardio. So you have to dial in your cardio. These 3 things, do this for 6 to 8 weeks, and you will definitely see positive changes in your body, and you will definitely get away from this problem of being skinny fat. So that's a quick summary. I'll link up some articles below. Go and check them out. Push-pull legs. I'll give you links to some meal plans to check out and a few other articles that I think is going to really help you, that help me turn my situation around. If you have any questions, please let me know, guys. More than happy to help you out, and I'll see you in the next video.